welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie, I am the head of publication here, and today I am thrilled to bring you a discussion about what the contact center agent role may look like in 5 years' time. Joining me for that conversation is Steve Ludd, the Vice President of Market Intelligence and Evangelism at Five9. Steve, thanks very much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, good to be with you again. It's been a while, actually, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a lot going on in the contact center space in recent months. And they tell us actually a lot as well about what the contact center agent role may look like in a few years' time. But before we go into the kind of how the agent role might change, I think it's worth considering kind of why the conventional contact center agent role may need to change over the coming years. I don't know if you have any sort of initial thoughts on this.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think really, if we think about the amount of automation that's taking place, increasingly customers want to self-serve through digital medium and so on. That role of having those employees there ready to jump on inquiries with customers in a almost completely reactive mode, that's expensive, right? How many staff do you need? What happens when there's nexus, when there's a lull, all those sorts of challenges that's in play. So as we start to see more of those engagements moving into the self-service, or starting in self-service, and effectively our service reps are going to be downstream. They're going to be picking up on more complex issues, maybe a bot escalation that the bot gives up. I can't handle this anymore. Got a rule. Got to pass it into an employee, and so they're no longer taking the engagement from the start. They're kind of picking up on it further down. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. And that's going to some extent, require a different set of skills. They have to pick up on the context, where the customer's been. They're probably frustrated, enter extra levels of empathy and things like that.
Yeah, again, lots of really good stuff in there. And it makes me think, actually, I heard recently that you recommended shifting away from the term contact center agent. Given those trends that you've talked about, why are you also recommending that shift?
Yeah, so I think it is kind of started, I think it was probably, we'll blame Salesforce, right, with Agent Force. It seemed to me, and as you know, I've been around this industry a very, very, very long time, and the term agent, for me, I've always preferred an advisor, because it's kind of, I want to do things by myself. When I can't, I want advice. But, ultimately, agents was a term attached to, we talk about agent seats and so on. So agent has been the employee that works in customer service. And sort of through the end of last year, we never had the level of media associated with agents as in the employees, but AI agents, oh wow. So it does seem to me that when moving forward, as we talk about agents, there's going to be an assumption that we're talking about technology. We're talking about an automation that's going to take place. And so from that perspective, maybe we do need to think that a contact center agent will be, oh, you mean automation? No, I mean the employee that supports the customer. So I think that term will change. My analogy is with the word collaborator. Right, so a collaborator today is someone that works on other people, virtually or in person, on projects and so on. 80 years ago, a collaborator meant something very, very different.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, though. I mean, we do have the term agent, but there's also the term rep. I still hear quite a lot of service rep. I mean, I think it's one operation years ago, I even heard the term guru, I think.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of words for agents out there, and I know that you've championed brand ambassador as an alternative for contact centers to consider as they sort of progress towards over the next few years. Why do you consider that the best place to?
Yeah, so that's a great one. And the catalyst for this was a conversation that our CTO, Jonathan Rosenberg, had with Dave Michaels after a CX Summit, where Jonathan did state, he said, customer service agents going away. Very bold statement to make. What he didn't mean was it's all going to be automated. What he meant was their role will shift into something else. And there's so much evidence that kind of supports that. So, it for us, it's not just about a name change. As we said, employees are going to be more downstream of those engagements. They're going to be picking up at different points in those conversations. So we could bring this to life with kind of like an example. A customer is on a web page. They're a high net worth customer. They've got an expensive item in the basket. They haven't completed on it. They haven't pressed the purchase now button. And the analytics say, oh my goodness, normally this customer would have done this by now, so we really need to engage somebody to then go and talk to them or discuss with them. So using the preferred method of communication, a brand ambassador would reach out to try and help the customer close on that. So a little bit of a sales tactic, they're ready to pitch, if necessary, the sales proposition that would be required. Or maybe the customer says something like, well, actually, I've bought this from somewhere else. They were cheaper, or I had a problem on the website with completing. All of that is great insight. That is the most authentic voice of the customer you can possibly want for. Way better than any form or any survey picking up chatter off of social media. So what you've now got is this employee. They're not specifically tasked with a quota, so they're not going to get upset if the customer says, sorry, I bought it somewhere else. But they've got a role in trying to drive up that loyalty. And so if I was that high net worth customer, I think, oh my goodness, they really care about me. So that helps to enforce the brand loyalty element. So I think that's that's the kind of role that we're talking about. So there is going to be a bit of selling in there. When you think about these people, what is it that they've got? Brand ambassadors, it's about listening, right? They're great at listening. They have strong empathy skills. Well, that's something that customer service reps, as you say, they're ingrained with that from the start. And over time, often when a customer connects with them, there's a problem. So they have to be empathetic. Now, you take a salesperson with a sales quota that's out there banging out all those phone calls, all those, if a customer, they just close it down. They're not interested because it's, time is money. This customer's not going to buy, I'm going to move on to the next one. You've got a brand ambassador that's not so motivated by a particular target or a sales target. They can be a bit more empathetic. They can have that conversation. They can drive up the brand loyalty. So we think that this is a role that if it was just support, it would be a cost. But you're blending this brand advocate with a little bit of sales and the support element, and someone that really is just really good at engaging with customers. And so that's kind of where we think this is going to be. All that simple stuff will be done by technology, of course, all the simple self-service, and these brand ambassadors are going to be much more involved in the operation. If there are issues, they'll be feeding those back into the business. They may have to jump out, form a tiger team to help resolve some process issues and so on. So a different role, a much more important role, and one we think that, it's going to command a greater salary as well.
Yeah, and within that, there's some significant shifts. There are obviously, many agents or ambassadors, maybe I should say, now are already tasked with upselling, already tasked with kind of taking customer insights and feeding them back into the broader team. But there's much more significant shifts within what you've just said than that alone. But it makes me think about what must contact centers do now to support their brand ambassadors of tomorrow. I don't know if there's any maybe starting steps that you could recommend with us for us.
Yeah, I think I've always been a bit disappointed, but the career path for a customer service rep has never always been something that the employee gravitates or moves through the company. I'm a customer service rep. I work in the call center industry. I move from one company to next doing the same job. A project manager can move between different companies. They don't necessarily have to understand the business that they're in. But what we see here is a role of an employee that is really growing with their company. So there's a much more longer term career path there, which might help to remove the turnover varies, of course, between different segments and countries and so on, but it is high compared to most organizations. So I think creating that committed career path with committed resources to supporting that growth is definitely going to be a start. I think we've got also, to your point, you mentioned that employees are set with things like cross-selling, upselling. Post-purchase, there's also other roles that are in play here. We have customer success, we have renewals and expansion teams. These people are also providing some sales-oriented activities as well. So if you put those together with the service reps, you've got a team, feasibly a smaller team over time, but a team of more valuable people that collectively working together have got all these skills that foster between that group. So I think creating that team structure is also going to be quite important. Near term, they need to change the metrics, right? I mean, I was talking with a customer recently that was saying, yeah, we've got staff dealing with more issues where they're using AI agent to support them through some of those activities, but the conversation is taking longer. And so the supervisors are getting really upset that the employee was extending the engagement with the customer. That was actually a good thing. But so the metrics have to change in order to understand this isn't just about duration and close down that inquiry as quickly as possible so you can get on to the next one. So I think those elements definitely are going to be in there. And I think not everyone's going to make this transition, right? This isn't going to be a job for everybody, for sure. But I do think in these early phases, where we are now, service leaders should be listening for those listening skills and empathy, and so trying to drive up that as an important skill set. So looking at the employees that are exceptionally good at those sorts of skill sets, and they are more likely to make feasibly better brand ambassadors.
Yeah, again, lots of really good points in there. The metrics point really as well hit home for me. I still remember, maybe it's a couple of years ago now, but kind of a contact center leader talking about how they managed to get occupancy up to 95%, for example. And I thought, wow, that's way too high. That's so it does kind of show that there's maybe ingrained practices within the contact center that now, as this evolution starts to happen, that we really need to challenge as well. So, but again, within that answer, lots of really good stuff there, Stephen. I'm sure this is a conversation that you and I could have for hours and hours. I think as we've covered that topic very well for now. So thanks very much for joining me today.
Thanks ever so much for having me, Charlie. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. And also thanks to everybody for watching. Bye for now.